I got the idea from the Boston Children's Museum. They have had, past tense, as part of their program, a room that they called Recycle, and it was filled with discards from businesses, industries. And I lived in Boston for 9 years before we moved back to Ann Arbor, where I was raised as a kid. And so I knew about the program. I had never actually experienced it, but just was aware of it. And when the Ann Arbor Hands-On Museum started, I asked them if they were going to have any kind of recycle program. And they said no, they didn't have the space or the time or the people. They were interested in just getting the museum going. And so they put me in touch with another woman who was also interested in starting something. And it was at a point in my life when my son was just starting kindergarten, and I was looking for something to do. I didn't need a job as such, but I needed something that was mine. And so I, from a friend of mine, got the idea that, well, maybe Ann Arbor could use some kind of recycle program. And so with the help of Bess Manchester, now Sternberg, we started the Scrap Box as part of the Child Care Network program. And they sponsored us for the first 2 years until they needed to move to larger quarters, and it was time for us to move on and become our own organization. So back in 1985, we applied for our own 501c3 status and found space in the Westside Methodist Church over on 7th Street. And they gave us space for several years. So that was the humble beginning. Mm-hmm. It's given me, without getting teary, given me a focus. I can't say it without getting teary. Given me a purpose. A sense that I've contributed. I've gotten lots of good feedback. Even just the happy kids when they leave and say, thank you. It's gratifying. We've had thousands of people come through the door and buy materials, and people have come back as adults and said, oh, I was here as a kid, and now I'm bringing my own children. Well, we're not necessarily saving things from going to the landfill, ultimately, but we're giving them a second chance before they actually are thrown away. And in that second chance comes a lot of creativity, and kids are able to use their imagination to dream up things that we adults never would have even imagined. They're kids, they're preschoolers just starting out, they're elementary kids, they're learning things along with our curriculum on recycling and building things such as robots or imaginary critters or animals in their habitats. And so a lot of art teachers come to get materials. A lot of adult artists and craft makers are a large part of our business. And a lot of just plain tinkerers, people looking for bargains, come through. So it's really a wide range of clientele. It's not just kids anymore. It's the whole gamut. Well, one of our tinkerers, adults, who just comes in once in a while to check things out, came back once with he had made out of some plastic tubing that we had that was quite thick in diameter, had arranged it into a marble maze. So he had little marbles that you could put in, and it would go through a whole series of loops and circles and come out the end. And he just made it for fun. A lot of donations just come through the door. People are hoping to find a place to take things that they know are just too good to throw away. And we're happy to provide a place for that. People can help us out by paying attention to the list on our website of things that we do want and things that we don't want. And the more sorting that could be done on their angle before they give it to us, the easier it is for us to deal with things. And we don't take things the first week of the month. That gives us a chance to kind of catch up on things. But a lot of our materials from the bulkroom do come from factories and businesses, but there are also a lot of things that just come through the door from individual customers, and we're very happy to find a second home for a lot of leftover craft materials, and a lot of good things out there, pine cones, seashells, that we can still use. Cash donations are wonderful. They help us meet the monthly rent and all the other expenses that we have. People do ask us, well, where does the money go? And it goes right back into paying our bills. Our rent is $3,500 a month. We have our insurance and our van payments. We have a new van, but we are paying a monthly payment for 5 years down the road before we actually own it. We have heat and electricity and all kinds of upkeep, plus salaries. We do have about 12 employees that are paid on a part-time basis, minimum wage. And so our expenses are great, and our income is not quite as great as it needs to be. So any kind of cash donations are very, very welcome.